Hello everyone, this is Player 1 with Basement Hero bringing you news from Day 2 of BlizzCon 2014. This time about the StarCraft 2 Legacy of the Void multiplayer panel. This one is a pretty interesting panel. They went through a lot of information, it was very detailed, and it brought a lot of info for the multiplayer aspect of the game. The first thing they talked about were design goals. What I kind of gained from it is it's kind of aimed for the viewers. They're bringing in tons and tons of focus into micro skills. So what they want is they want more action, they want more harassment options, they want more incentives to go on the offensive, like for example, the Marine medevac. Go right in, try to get some troops, get out. They want more micro opportunities. They want more army versus army micro opportunities. They want to differentiate player skills, sort of like, with example, the Immortal Sentry push. A lot of people can do it, but a lot of people can't do it well. So they really want to show player skill. Maybe that's where they're going with all these design goals as well. Anyway, they also want to improve unit abilities like corruptors and battle cruisers. They want to improve existing units and abilities. Something to remember, this is all work in progress, this is all pre-alpha stuff, so anything that I say here and anything they have talked about, it could change, but these are general ideas that they are working on right now. One thing they did is they're reducing resources and bases, so when a game starts, instead of gas and minerals having a whole lot of resources to gather, they're lowering that initial number, which is going to force players to expand faster or to get kills quicker and the game faster. It's going to induce a lot of movement in bases. The next thing they're doing is they're changing the starting worker count to 12, which is up from 6, and the supply from the bases are going to be increased a little bit to compensate for that. First, the next thing they talked about were Terran changes. One of the new units they were talking about is the Herc. It is a barracks unit that has a grapple ability, it has splash damage, it's going to be attacking ground only, light armor. It's a good counter to Zerglings and Immortals, but they're weak against stuff like roaches and zealots. The goal to this is they wanted some kind of Zergling Bane counter, and they want more. They once again want to encourage micro controlling. That's really one of the biggest focuses in this panel, is they want to encourage a lot more micro control. So one of the concerns for the Herc is it too much like a Firebat. Next, they went into the Cyclone. It's going to be a factory built unit that has a lock-on ability. It's going to target air and ground. It's going to be weak against mobility. It's going to be weak against fast stuff, but it's going to be really strong against slow stuff. It is a mobile unit, and it's going to be very good to eliminate priority targets. That's the goal of it, and it's going to be maybe a new way to open. So the Cyclone unit will go in, target a unit, and it's just going to focus fire on that unit. So that's going to be pretty cool. Reminds me a lot of the Diamondback, but with a focus. So next thing they talked about is siege tank changes. The biggest of these changes, well, the only change they talked about, is that medevacs can now pick up one siege tank while it is in siege mode. So it's going to be very interesting to see what kind of harassment can come from that. Maybe it'll pick up a siege tank, drop it in a tank, or drop it in a base to kill a few workers, and then pick it up again, or like early in the game. Don't know. We'll see. Next thing they talked about was the Thor. They are adding a new self-repair ability. While it's doing this, it won't be able to move or attack. So the concern they have there is that you're not going to have much micro out of combat. So it'll be pretty easy to just, move a Thor out of combat and plop it down, have it repair. Next thing they talked about were Banshees. Banshees are going to get a movement speed upgrade, like you'll be able to upgrade the Banshees and they'll be able to move faster. But they are also getting a base range increase of 1 further, so they will be a little bit more of a ranged unit, which is kind of cool. The concern they have is in Terran versus Terran combat, if that will be something to really look at. And the last Terran change they talked about were battle cruisers. They're adding a new ability called a tactical jump. It's going to require a lot of energy to use, and you're going to be able to teleport anywhere on the map regardless of fog or not. They want this to be used more, once again, with microing. Next, they talked about Zerg. The first and biggest announcement they had with the Zerg are lurkers are coming back. They are going to be a lot of the same abilities and focus as from Brood War, but they're adding a siege range to it, so that's something that they will be able to take out enemy base units like a Protoss cannon from further away, just like a Terran siege tank would. They will have to burrow to attack. Their counter, you counter the lurkers with cyclones as Terran. Remember, the cyclone is the targeting ability, the one that can move. It can shoot them from kind of far away as long as there's vision. The lurkers have to get out, try to move toward the cyclone, etc. Next, you can micro to avoid lurker attacks, so a lot of skilled players will be able to see when these attacks are coming and move units out of the way. They wanted the lurker to be a roach counter in Zerg versus Zerg, and Protoss also are going to need to micro to really avoid lurkers as much as they can. Next, they talk about a new unit called a Ravager, which is going to be a morph of roaches. It is going to have corrosive bile. It's going to need micro from both players. It'll need micro to shoot and avoid and all kinds of stuff. It's going to be good against siege tanks and buildings because of that corrosive bile. It can lead its shots. It's one of those where you can tell the shot where it's going to go, and they'll be good versus air as well. They can attack air, but they might need to balance it versus lurkers. It might be too OP versus lurkers. Next, they talked about corruptors. Corruptors they wanted to change a little bit, so they gave it a spray attack, and corruption was removed. They might be weaker now versus air, though, so they're going to have to look into that. Next, they talked about swarm hosts, which is has some interesting changes. The cooldown is increased on swarm host spawning the locusts, but the locusts' damage is increased. So it's no longer going to be an auto cast where those go to attack. You have to tell the locusts where to attack. One of the new things with the swarm host, though, is you'll be able to upgrade the locusts where when they are launched out, they fly. They cannot attack while they're flying. They have to dive into the ground and start attacking from the ground, but it brings a new gameplay mechanic to swarm hosts. Then the last part of Zerg they talked about were Nidus worms. They buffed Nidus worms so that they can't be hurt until they're done unburrowing, instead of before where they're popping out of the ground and already getting attacked and they're pretty worthless. So now it's that delay is going to give Zerg a little bit of advantage there with the Nidus worm. That's pretty cool. Then they jumped into the Protoss. This being a Protoss expansion, this was a lot of important stuff. One of them, the first thing they talked about were warp-ins. Warp-ins, they pretty much nerfed in my opinion, but it's important stuff. Warped-in units are going to take 200% extra damage for a little bit of time, and it's going to take longer to warp them in. So that is going to require more strategy and micromanagement to decide when and where to warp stuff. And they think it still needs a little bit of tuning, so they're going to work on warp-in, but those are the first things they were talking about. Next, they talked about disruptors. That is going to be a robotics unit. It is going to have a purification ability. It's going to be a unit that it moves through enemies. While it's moving, it's invulnerable, and then when it gets done with this cooldown, it explodes, and then it has to recharge to do that again. It doesn't have any kind of auto attack or stuff like that. They are planning for it to be an expensive unit, and it's ground attack only. It's going to take a lot of micromanagement from both sides. It's going to be a harassment unit. The concern is that it's kind of like a splash unit, just like the Colossus, so they don't want it to be too equal like that. The weakness in it is that after it explodes, and since it can't attack air, if you can get away from it while it's doing that, and then start attacking after it needs to recharge, it's basically weak and useless and easy to kill right then. Next, they talked about warp prisms. Those get a buff. You can pick up from a distance now. The distance is increased, so it makes them easier to use. Much more gameplay mechanic change. Immortals were changed a little bit. The hardened shell, they removed that passive, and instead gave them a new activated ability called Barrier, and it's basically a shield that blocks a whole bunch of damage for a little bit of time. So with micromanagement, they'll be like a Blink Stalker, where you'll have a couple of them move in with that shield. When that shield's where it wears off, they back out and more immortals come in and use the shield, etc. The concerns are that it might be too strong when it comes to immortal pushing, so they're going to have to look into that. Next, they talk about oracles. Oracles get a castable ability that's a revelation that detects invisible units, so they're going to be really good versus banshees. When a banshee starts attacking, you can cast this revelation on them, and they basically, the cloak won't matter, and you can get a chance to kill them. They also get something called stasis ward, which is going to stop movement in a specific area on the ground. Like, the units in this area are going to stop moving and they will be invincible for a bit of time, but while they're there they can't move, they can't be attacked, and they can't attack, so that takes out that group of units from a battle for a specific amount of time. Next, they talked about tempests. Tempests, they want to be more of a skirmish unit, so they're changing it around. They're going to be faster, they're going to have a faster movement speed, they're going to be attack ground only, no more air attack, and they're going to get a ability called Disintegration that is a short-ranged ability. So first they have to get into a short range, cast this ability, and then they can get out, but it's a damage over time ability that could be interesting. And the last Protoss change they talked about were carriers. There's going to be a way that you can release the interceptors all to a certain spot permanently. So if you tell the interceptors to go attack a bunker, they'll just do that and the carrier can go off on its merry way. So it's going to be good for flyby attacks, good for harassing and defending. Next, the last few things they talked about, one of them is that the beta is going to be the first half of next year. That's what they're aiming for, so it's getting closer. And then they talked about 2 new features, 2 new modes. One of them is automated tournaments, where you can sign up on Battle.net. It's going to be the same day type of tournament. It's going to have a tournament experience to it. We'll have brackets. The concerns they have is that the total duration, they want it to be aimed around the 3 to 4 hour mark. So, I don't know. We'll see how that goes. Maybe some of the games will be like best of 1 instead of best of 3 or 5. And then the other mode they talked about, which they briefly talked about the other day, was Archon mode. It's going to be a team co-op where it'll be 1 versus 1 with an ally. So 2 versus 2, but you each get 1 team. Everyone gets to control everything on this team, so it isn't going to be like maybe one person's just controlling troops and the other one's just controlling abilities. Everyone can control everything, and so communication is going to be key, and that's going to be a lot of micromanaging as well. So maybe one person will just have ghosts and the other one will just have marines. You never know. It'll be interesting. They were saying how the Archon mode, it'll be a good way to help teach people to play. You know, if someone's getting into it for the first time, you can go into an Archon mode 1v1 and help teach them how to play. And Archon mode will also have a ranked ladder system that is in the works. Anyway, that was the StarCraft 2 Legacy of the Void multiplayer panel. This is Player 1 with Basement Hero. Hopefully that helped. Talk to you later.